Len McCluskey, General Secretary of Unite the Union, was left with a feeling of bitterness after the Labour Party lost the 2019 general election. Labour under Jeremy Corbyn advocated the most radical left-wing policies seen in British politics since the days of Michael Foot, but they were heavily defeated by Boris Johnson's Conservatives. Although many had predicted a Tory victory, no one forecast such an abysmal result for Labour, its heaviest defeat since 1935. It marked an end to Mr Corbyn's Labour and any hope for a left-leaning government in the UK for at least 5 years. The defeat was a bitter blow to the party, but many people simultaneously recognized that it could only get better from that point onwards. Sir Keir Starmer has since become the party's new leader. A more moderate politician, Sir Keir sits still left of the spectrum yet closer to the middle. This compromise has left many hopeful that Labour will attract more support for 2024's general election. For the unions, it would take a little longer to recover from the fall of their most enthusiastic supporter for decades. During an Oxford Union address earlier this year, Mr McCluskey revealed how the ordeal had left him feeling bitter. He said, "I'm convinced that trade unions are needed now more than ever to represent and unite people in what is becoming an increasingly dividing society. It would be wrong of me not to admit this evening that the hope and enthusiasm that I felt the last time I was here, just months after Jeremy Corbyn was elected leader of the Labour Party, have given way to bitter disappointment. But while the sense of defeatism and demoralization is inevitable, I see it as my role to shake off that particular feeling and to work to build a movement that wins for working people, whatever the government is in power." Trade unions and the Labour Party have an intimate and interwoven history. The party was in fact formed and funded by the trade union movement around the turn of the 20th century. When Labour came into power in 1945, the party and the unions that funded it were considered as synonymous. One of the most famous trade unionist Labour politicians, Aneurin Bevan, from working-class South Wales. In 1959, he was still delivering resounding socialist speeches in the face of successive conservative victories. In the 60s, relations between the unions and the party started to simmer when the unions accused then Prime Minister of attempting to curb their powers. Then, in the 70s, trade unions picked up their popularity and power once again, becoming an integral part of British life, appearing on TV and stage around the world. Labour's 80s leader, Neil Kinnock, took on the unions, calling them outdated, misplaced, irrelevant, a speech which was met with fierce opposition. With Tony Blair's ascension to leader in 1994, New Labour was pushed forward and the party's old ties were slowly slashed. Since, trade unions have had an awkward place in modern politics, especially with the party they founded. Mr Corbyn held out an olive branch, but many are now skeptical over the strength of the newfound relations as the party distances itself from its socialist agenda.